When most people think of a small town, they envision a quiet, peaceful life. One where you can leave your doors unlocked and let your kids play anywhere outside in the neighborhood. But there are some small towns where violent crime is much higher than even locals would care to admit. And with over 85% of the people in the United States living in small towns or rural areas, this affects a larger portion of the population than you might even realize. So in today's video, we're going to look at the top 10 most violent small towns in America. For this criteria, we selected towns that have the highest violent crime rate, and that's what the FBI defines as unaliving someone, other types of assault, basically anything with force or physical harm towards another person, unwanted physical contact. You get my drift. And as far as population size, we selected towns between 1,000 and 20,000 people. Otherwise, a family feud in a tiny town might make it look like a war zone in Venezuela. You'll want to remember these town names next time you're on a road trip, as some of them are near prominent major cities. Number 10, Cocoa, Florida. This small town is located approximately 45 miles east of Orlando, and right along the shores of the Indian River, which flows into the Atlantic Ocean. Originally known for its thriving industrial sector, Cocoa's economy was heavily reliant on industries such as citrus farming and aerospace, as you can see by its close proximity to the Kennedy Space Center. But since the government stopped sending people to space and leaving that task up to people like Elon Musk, unemployment rates have soared in this town, leading to economic hardships and a rise in crime. Although a lot of local residents tend to tell a different story, saying the stats don't provide a clear picture of the community. Just tell that to the family of Factor Kurup, who was walking home carrying a case of beer when a 19-year-old jumped out of the bushes and shot him in an attempted robbery. Or the family of Deshaun Stewart, who was tragically taken from them on February 17, 2024, and are still looking for answers. Now, granted, you may go your whole life living in one of these towns and never experience a violent crime, but the numbers don't lie. If you live in a town of 17,800 people, and the violent crime rate is 5.5 times the national average, you should definitely watch your back. Cocoa has a violent crime rate of 207 per 10,000 residents, giving you a 1 in 48 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Number 9, Darby, Pennsylvania. Darby, Pennsylvania is a neighboring suburb to Philadelphia and was established in 1682. It is one of the oldest settlements in the state with deep roots in early Quaker history, known for its historic buildings and cemeteries. Darby features notable sites like Darby Free Library, which is one of the oldest public libraries in the United States. So you can see why 10,700 people live here and why many visit to immerse themselves in our nation's history. But once you realize how violently criminal many of its residents are, you may want to visit someplace else, especially if you have small pets. Earlier this year, a woman from Upper Darby was arrested and charged with aggravated cruelty to animals. Get this, all for views on YouTube. But it's not just crime against animals in Darby. There have been targeted and random crimes, such as a recent attack on a 15-year-old boy who was stabbed while walking down the street in his own neighborhood, leaving his family heartbroken and utterly devastated. If you're planning to visit the old nation's capital and take your kids to see the Liberty Bell, don't stay the night in Darby, as you have a 1 in 47 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Number 8, Bethel, Alaska. In a remote Arctic region of Alaska is the small town of Bethel, which was established in the late 19th century as a trading post and mission to the local people. It became a key transportation hub for the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta because of its location along the Kuskokwim River. It can only be reached by plane or boat and has a population of only 6,500 people. Talk about isolation. I don't know about you, but a cold, isolated lifestyle does not sound fun, and I bet a handful of the locals in Bethel feel the same, leading some of them to lash out at their neighbors or their own family, like this recent case of a Bethel woman who was arrested for stabbing someone inside her home. Detective Dylan Floyd of the Bethel Police Department, who responded to the call, said the scene was grisly. But what concerns me even more is how unstable the local law enforcement seems to be, as police chiefs who have been hired in recent years have not lasted very long due to, quote, internal and external interference, end quote. Both Chief Simmons and Hicks left the department and described Bethel as one of the most violent communities in the nation. They are not wrong. Bethel has a violent crime rate of 216.2 per 10,000 residents, making your chances of falling victim to a violent crime only 1 in 46. Number 7. Opa Locka, Florida. If you're into man-made flight, you may have heard of this town as it was established in 1926 by Glenn Curtiss, an aviation pioneer, and by 1967 was the world's busiest civilian airport with over 650,000 flight operations. Or maybe you appreciate the Moorish revival-style buildings which this town is known for. I mean, look at the City Hall. But regardless of its fascinating features and impressive aviation history, Opa Locka is one small town to fly away from. Just last week, on June 3rd, Miami-Norland High lost its football coach, Keon Smith, to a shooting in this town. But when the violence extends to those that are supposed to be protecting you, there's a whole new level of danger. One of the town's own officers, who also happens to be the mayor's brother, was arrested for the second time in a year on assault and domestic abuse charges. But that's not all. Chief James Dobson was fired due to reporting corruption within the department. He was recently awarded a $500,000 settlement to dismiss the case, meaning the corruption is still prevalent. With a population of 16,835 people, the violent crime rate hits you in the face at 222.2 per 10,000 residents, leaving you with a 1 in 45 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Number 6. Marksville, Louisiana. Here's a small town that didn't even exist until the French trader Marc Eliche established a trading post in what is now known as Marksville after his wagon broke down. Today it attracts many visitors with the famous Paragon Casino Resort or its various parks and plantation houses, but it also bears the mark of a terrible tragedy that made headlines back in 2015. Marksville officers started following Christopher Few around in his vehicle for reasons that have never been fully explained to the public, and finally pulled him over after a couple miles. Few held his hands up and the officers proceeded to fire 18 shots, killing his 6-year-old son in the back seat. The officers face 40 years in prison, and many believe this whole mess was racially motivated. Whichever way you take this case, Marksville is in the Deep South and racism has been known to play a part in crimes. And it's definitely a town to be cautious of, regardless of your skin color. There are approximately 222.2 violent crimes for every 10,000 residents each year. With a population of about 5,000, there are about 444 violent crimes every year. Like Opa Locka, Marksville, Louisiana gives you a 1 in 45 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Number 5. Osceola, Arkansas. Not to be confused with the peaceful town of the same name in Iowa, which we featured in a previous video as one of the 17 small towns offering free land in the United States, Osceola, Arkansas might seem like the beaches of Normandy in comparison. It was founded in 1837 as a port town along the Mississippi River and was also home to one of the largest battles of the Civil War fought along the river. Today, people visit to see firsthand the historical sites and museums and taste some really great food, but be ready to duck and hide because bullets seem to fly around this town like nowhere else. These are a few of the headlines you'll read about this tragic city, ending the lives of so many, like Jordan Wilson, who was visiting his family when his cousin shot him. The town of only 7,100 people has a violent crime rate of 225.6 per 10,000 residents, giving you a 1 in 44 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Number 4. Española, New Mexico. About 26 miles north of Santa Fe lies the little small town of Española, which was established in 1880 as a railroad town and has deep historical roots tied to the Spanish colonization of the 16th century. The surrounding hills are definitely breathtaking, and many automobile lovers come here to see the low-rider capital of the world. These cars were super popular back in the 90s, if I remember correctly, and are a beloved cultural tradition in New Mexico and other Hispanic communities. This town of about 10,000, however, has a high rate of poverty, and there's a lengthy history of harm and systemic oppression to the indigenous people of this region that dates back to the 1600s. Just last fall, Jacob Johns fell victim to a shooting in yet another incident. But the crimes aren't limited to the indigenous, and many fall victim to armed robbery, assault, and abusive crimes. Retired Police Chief Richard Galagos seemed to think it was all visitors from surrounding communities. I mean, who wants to think that their town is among the most violent in the nation? Española has a violent crime rate of 267.2 per 10,000 people, leaving you a 1 in 37 chance of being a victim of a crime. Or, according to Galagos, you might be the problem here. Number 3. Florida City, Florida. Wow, a third city in the Sunshine State? That's kind of surprising to me, honestly. But anywhere there is extreme weather, hot or cold, people are bound to be a little more hostile. Florida City is the southernmost municipality in the Miami-Dade County mainland and acts as a gateway to the Florida Keys and the Everglades National Park. Meaning, if you're traveling by car to the Florida Keys for that long-anticipated vacation, you'll have to pass through this town. Just maybe keep driving and don't stop in for the night. Why? Well, the violent crime in this town of 12,300 people is not something to mess around with. There are 279.7 violent crimes for every 10,000 people, assault and robbery being among the most common. A lot of people do stop here since it's the last town before the Keys, which contributes to the violent crimes because visitors are often easy targets of attack. I remember watching a Forensic Files episode years ago called Tourist Trap, describing how rental cars used to advertise the company name all over the vehicles, which contributed to the horrible crime sprees in Florida. While that may no longer be the case, there are still telltale signs of being a tourist that criminals watch out for, and in Florida City, your chances of becoming a victim of a violent crime might be even higher than 1 in 36 if you so much as look like a tourist. Number 2. Oakwood, Georgia. Less than 50 miles northeast of Atlanta is the small but dangerous town of Oakwood, Georgia. Founded in the late 19th century as a railroad stop between Charlotte and Atlanta, this town was named for its abundance in oak trees and once offered a peaceful environment with its close proximity to Lake Lanier. It's home to about 4,200 people and is often visited by folks traveling to the lake for boating, fishing, and other recreational activities. But not only are there creeps who perform indecent acts at a local Burger King or rob a bunch of phones in brazen crime sprees, the violent crimes in Oakwood are some of the worst in the nation, including several shootings and dozens being arrested in recent months for the exploitation of minors. While Oakwood may appear like a nice, quaint town to visit, almost any other small town in Georgia will treat you better. The violent crime rate in Oakwood is 296.4 per 10,000 residents, leaving you with a 1 in 34 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Now, before we get to number 1, I wanted to give an honorable mention to the small town of Anniston, Alabama. While this town may still be considered small, it was only 205 people above my threshold of 20,000 residents, but it's one that would have made second place if it wasn't. About an hour and a half drive to the east of Birmingham lies the deadly town of Anniston. Although it attracts visitors with its museums and historical sites and outdoor recreation, it's not a town I'd ever sleep in. Even stopping to get some quick supplies at a grocery store could prove to be a bad move, as there was a shooting outside the local Walmart earlier this year. There are also gangs in this town with frequent shootouts that will give you the feeling of being in Jersey or South Chicago. The crime rate in Anniston is 333.1 per 10,000 residents, giving you a 1 in 30 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. Number 1. Kotzebue, Alaska. Now this town is crazy, and crazy violent, with a violent crime rate of 337.4 per 10,000 residents. That's over 100 violent crimes in this ridiculously small town every year. First of all, the local alcohol laws are confusing and baffling to say the least. In a flawed effort to control public intoxication and crime, Kotzebue is known as a local option community, meaning you can only import alcoholic beverages for consumption if properly labeled and within your monthly limits, whatever that is. Well, this doesn't seem to work, as many of the violent crimes here in Kotzebue often involve people under the influence. Go figure. But that's not even the half of it. The sexual violence, unexplained deaths, and many other twisted and bizarre crimes in this town of only 3,000 people have sparked calls in Alaska for more rural justice. A headline from ProPublica reads, "One woman died on an Alaska mayor's property, then another. No one has ever been charged." And yep, you guessed it, that's Kotzebue. The local police ruled one of the deaths a suicide, even after the medical examiner stated that there were signs of strangulation. Being that this town is so far remote from the rest of the world, and like Bethel can only be visited by plane or boat, it's not likely you'll ever visit, but if you're offered a job here, or want to see how bad it is for yourself, you just might regret that decision, as the chance of being a victim of a violent crime is only 1 in 29. That's 9 times the national average. Do you know of another small town that is equally or similarly violent? Let me know in the comments below. Also, please be sure to check out this video of the most dangerous countries in the world. According to my metrics, YouTube will not show this video to anyone because I talk about the war in Gaza and the war in Russia. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.